Ciao tutti, welcome back to Calcio Culture. We got a busy week this week. We got Europa League, Conference League. We just finished up Champions League for the week. We got a busy weekend and then another busy week next week. This is Vos. I got Motts here today and we got a ton to talk about.
We got Calcio galore coming up soon. After this weekend, we miss a day after Saturday, Sunday. They skip Monday, and then we got a game Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, no Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. A lot of Calcio. That puts me in a very, very good mood because every day there's going to be Calcio to watch.
I'm going to get zero stuff done at the 9 to 5 for the next 2 weeks now. I'm going to have the games going on. I'm not going to be paying attention at all. Just waiting to hop on the Calcio Culture recording, talk about it.
I second that. I won't be doing much. Although,
yeah.
That won't be good for me, but that's okay because
we got quick shouts.
Quick shouts.
First one,
quick shouts
from the desert in Saudi Arabia, Al Nasser, I think it is. Stefano Pioli making waves. This is a classic example of you only know what you got when it's gone. Pioli, 7 wins in a row in Saudi. Looking really good. Milan maybe not looking so smart.
I said it when you guys let him go. Logan was thrilled to let him go. You were thrilled to let him go. I said maybe he's not the best tactician, but he's a very good manager and he knows how to win. Listen, a lot of things went Milan's favor the year that they won the Scudetto, but Pioli won a Scudetto with a team that should not have won a Scudetto. And that's a difficult achievement, and that shows that he knows how to win games and manage games. And he's proving it again in the Saudi League. Maybe not as good, but Al Nassr didn't have the best league or the best finish last year in the league, even though they have Ronaldo and Mane and other players. And they got a real manager, and now look what's happening.
I mean, it is kind of, when you look at what happened when they sacked Pioli, it was Scudetto win, 4th place, 2nd place, sacked. Kind of.
And the quarterfinals of the semi or quarterfinals of the Champions,
because they lost Inter in the semi.
Yeah, exactly. So he did good.
No, he did do good. Fair. You got one though that you pulled out today, right? Or was this yesterday?
Yeah, this was today. Manchester City played today. We gave Victor Osimhen a shout out for his goal that he scored. So we got to give this guy a shout out. Erling Haaland. He, for some reason, doesn't love to use his head and just throws his boot in the air or like very high in the air and connects, because he had an extremely good goal today for Manchester City. But I was looking at the video and like if he misses the ball or even if he hits the ball and somebody like is aggressive and puts their head there, I mean, he's bottom of the cleat spikes to the face. Like that's crazy.
I mean, yeah, it could be a foul. Question on Haaland, because I don't know why this is always the comparison, but it's always Haaland or Harry Kane. What side of the boat are you on?
Yeah, it's so tough. Harry Kane can do way more than Erling. Erling is just like a old-fashioned 9 touches a game striker, 2 goals, while Harry Kane can drop into the midfield to play a pass, get an assist, get a goal. If I'm building a team, it depends on who's behind me too, right? Like if I have a number 10, I'm going Haaland. If I don't have a number 10, I'm going Harry Kane. But in terms of just like player, I would go for right now Harry Kane. What side are you on?
Too. I'm a big Harry Kane guy. I think Harry Kane is one of the most underrated players of the generation. And people still think he's good, but I think he kind of gets thrown under the bus because he played for Tottenham and they just weren't very good.
Doesn't win, has no trophies. His trophy cabinet is empty.
This year he should.
Yeah,
but let's keep it.
I love it.
No, you don't. Blake loves it. Another Champions League team, Liverpool, Italian guy making the news for all the wrong reasons.
Well, another Premier League team, but yes, they are in the Champions League. But this is an Italian. The saga continues with Federico Chiesa, my boy. He has played a total of, I want to say, 12 minutes in the Premier League and the Champions League for Liverpool. And Arne Slot said to the media today that he is coming from the Serie A, which is less intensive than the Premier League, He struggles to reach our level. It is a disappointment, or a big disappointment, seeing him skipping our training sessions, which is just crazy. The skipping the training sessions is nuts, right? I can understand that the Serie A is a slower league, so it's going to take a few games to get up to speed, just like Ricardo Calafori happened with him. But not playing him at all, I think, is crazy. But obviously, I wouldn't play him either if he's just not going or skipping the training sessions. What do you think about this?
Well, my guess is I think this is a translation error because I bet that he is not allowed to train because he's not reaching their fitness metrics, which is, that's my guess as to what I think this actually means. Because there is no way that if Chiesa is just skipping training outright, that would be fucking insane. So that's what I think this is. And that doesn't surprise me. I kind of have said this about Juve for a while. I don't think they physically mold people well. I really don't. Like, since Wes McKennie's gotten there, I feel like he hasn't gotten much more fit, and I would have expected that.
10 assists last season. You've been saying this. I mean, it depends, though. Like, you'll get some guys will go to another team and say, oh, my goodness, what we're doing. Like, De Ligt, for example, went to Bayern and was like, this is night and day harder than Juventus. But then you have other players that leave Juventus and go other places and say, this is a joke. Like Patrice Evra, when he came from United to Juventus, he was like, we didn't even practice at United compared to what we're doing at Juventus. So I think it has a big thing to do with who's the manager at the
Yeah,
time.
that's true. That's a good point. People wouldn't be saying that during Conte's Juve era, for sure.
No, they would not.
Some more Italian news.
In the Premier League as well, Ricardo Calafori in the Champions League was going after a ball and fell very funky, I'll say, on his knee. He already has a bad knee. I believe this was the bad knee, the right one. Not sure on the injury. We will keep the Paisanos posted. Hopefully it's not season ending. It did look like it could be. But that would be brutal if another Italian tears their ACL, and this one's not even in Italy. This one is in England. That'd just be brutal and heartbreaking. So hopefully it did not happen, but we'll keep you posted.
Chance for Buongiorno to get some burn now for the Azzurri.
Yeah, that is true. That's a good thing that Juventus have three, or not Juventus, Italy have three strong center backs. And I was thinking the other day, or noticed this. Did you know that Italy has another BVC in Buongiorno, Bastoni, and Calafiori?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Bonucci, Berzagli, Chiellini. How crazy is that?
That is crazy. That's very funny.
Quick shout for you right there. Quick shout. All right, moving on to the next one. Moving back to kind of Italy and Serie A, there was news of an Italian legend that said, never say never when it comes to returning to the Serie A. And that Italian legend is who, Vos?
Francesco Totti apparently had a Serie A club reach out to him about maybe playing. And this, I'm not sure this is real. Like, because the club is unnamed, and I'm sure any club that was linked to this would deny all allegations that they thought about this. And it was definitely Monza, if it was anybody.
You had another guess, the Genoa, too. They're looking for a strike dealer. I mean,
it was one of the two.
It's like, why not? If we're talking about Balotelli, why don't we go for Totti? Listen, I mean, Totti, you're 47. Like, that boat has probably set sail, right? That boat's done. I love the confidence. And if he does, I wonder how the Roma fans would take it, because he's obviously a Roma legend, never put on another jersey besides Roma. And what if he just comes back and is like, throws on the Monza or the Genoa? Who knows? Maybe it was Roma.
Maybe it was Roma. It very much could have been Roma. Just saying this. We need you back.
We need some of the old.
Yeah, they sacked Rossi. We got to bring back Francesco. Bring him in.
Yeah, we'll bring someone in that fights for the badge.
Yeah, that would be very, very funny. Maybe it'll come out. I hope it comes out what team it was, because that would be very funny if it was Roma.
Yeah, that would be.
It could be. They're in a weird space. On some more real player news that are actually playing right now, we don't want to get bogged down by transfers too much, but one that seems to be growing some legs is Zirkzee to Juventus on loan is what it looks like it would be. And it seems like this
Yeah,
is possible.
in January, possible loan. Zirkzee's not playing too well at United. He's their second option. Would love to come back to Italy and would love to work under Mata again. We'll see if they can make it happen. I think the only real way would be a loan. I think Manchester United wouldn't sell him for cheap, considering they just bought him for like 50 million this summer. I really hope it happens. Juventus need a second striker. They need somebody other than Dusan with a different skill set. This would be beautiful. I really, really hope it happens, but I know how hard it will be, especially with Zirkzee's age, and he's probably going to demand some crazy fee like he did in the summer.
Hypothetical. I don't think this is a possibility, but hypothetical. Would you swap Dusan for Zirkzee? Straight up swap.
Yeah, I would. Yeah,
I agree. I think you'd have to.
Zirkzee gives you a little bit less of the finishing quality, but so much more of the link-up play to allow other people to score as well. Dusan's link-up play, not good. His hold-up play, not good. His finishing, mediocre at best. Zirkzee's finishing is also mediocre, so it's like you're not sacrificing too much there, and then you're getting a ton of different aspects. I would do it, yeah.
I just don't understand how this is real. Like, they just bought Zirkzee for all this money. You knew exactly what you were going to get. Like, he's being exactly what you thought. Like,
it's classic. Dude, they bought Haaland 2 years ago from a Serie A team, and he also started slow. It's like, it's a different league. They have to get accustomed to it. He's not going to start off firing on all cylinders, although maybe they thought after game one, when he did what Zirkzee did, received the ball as a 10, played it out wide, then moved in as a 9 and finished and scored the game-winning goal. They were like, this is going to be every game. And I looked at his highlights when I saw this. I wanted to see how bad he was playing. He's playing well. He's just not finishing the opportunities. He's missing some sitters, which is not good for a striker. But that is kind of who Zirkzee is. Like I said, his finishing isn't amazing, but it's the creating that he also makes him who he is.
It's just bad recruitment out of United again. Not knowing what you're paying for and using it incorrectly, kind of thing. But that's it with quick shouts. We do got to talk Champions League. Overall, I would say
yucky.
poor, yucky Italian performance that got masked by a kind of rescue result. And we'll go through these quick.
Well, before we go through them, really funny that last episode when we were talking really quick about the Champions League, I was like, a Serie A parlay would be a great bet here. Terrible.
Motts is not hot, so don't listen to anything betting-wise. We'll start with the good news. AC Milan beat Club Brugge at home 3-1. And I think Brugge was on a red card for a lot of this game, right?
Yeah, 40th minute, I believe they got a red card. They did score down a man. It was 1-1, and then the second half happened. Reinders kind of took over, scored 2 goals. 2 big things for me happened in this game. Number one, Leao gets subbed off in the 60th minute. Milan scored twice. Okay.
And one of them was while he was walking off the field. Like, he wasn't even off the field yet, and they scored.
So, goes to show maybe he's not that needed, and it might be time for them to part ways with him if a buyer comes that makes sense. And then number 2, we have some big news from a young Italian. Camada, the youngest Italian to play in the Champions League, did score a goal, had a sick celebration. Everybody lifted him up. He took his shirt off. It was great. Got called back by VAR. Very unfortunate for him, but very good to see a young Italian. He's 16 years old, being played in the Champions League, making things happen in the Champions League. So you hope that Milan will play him in the Serie A and continue to play him because he can clearly play in this in these games.
Definitely. And my other big takeaway from this game is I think we're starting to see what Milan's identity is, and they are starting to embrace that. And that's just a quick counter-attacking team is how they want to play, and that's where they've had success so far this season. So I hope they continue to steer into that. And I also think that Fofana is playing very well. He is a good anchor piece to this team for sure. and Reinders with a brace again. Reinders is continuing to get better and better. So he's still
Yeah.
exciting to watch. The next game, Stuttgart at Juventus. Juventus lost this game 1-0. I think it should have been 2-0. The goal that got called off, I did not think was a handball. I thought they should have allowed it. And overall, for Juve Motts, bad game.
Terrible game. The one bright spot for Juve was Matteo Perin in goal. He was all over the place. This game should have easily been 3-0 or 4-0. Perin saved a PK. He got man of the match. He was real emotional about it after the game because he had such a good game and they still let in the goal. In terms of the handball, when I saw the replay, I was just grasping at straws saying, that's a handball, that's a handball. If that happened to Juventus, they'd call a handball. And they called a handball. So I was pleased about that because things like that usually never go Juventus's way. But I don't think it was a handball. It hit him above the bicep area. But the Juventus looked awful. I mean, they didn't. I think their first shot on target was the 82nd minute. Looked like Max Allegri ball for sure. Very unfortunate to see. Need a bounce back after this game. One thing I did like post game is that Thiago Motta went to the press conference and said, "Totally my fault. I set up the team wrong. I didn't motivate them. Everything's on me. Put the blame on me." You love to see that from the coach.
Yeah, it did look like that their plan was just to sit deep. So it was weird. It did look like a Allegri ball, which I did not like. Moving
Yeah, it
on
was bad.
today, Inter Milan went to Belgium, maybe Switzerland, to play Young Boys. I always forget where they are. 1-0 win off of a late Marcus Thuram goal off the bench.
93rd minute.
Off the bench. Kind of got bailed out. Young Boys had a lot of good chances this game. Inter kind of did what they've been doing, which is just sit and try to hit on the counter. They really had no interest in having the ball. Arnautovic missed a penalty. Other big news, Carlos Augusto looked like he pulled a hammy, so I expect him to be out for a while. And then Dumfries started this game, which was good to see. And we did see Barella play in that deep lying role again, which still doesn't look right.
Not at all. Lot of changes in the Inter lineup. That's obviously because who they're playing this weekend in the Serie A. But we talked about it before we hopped on, and I wanted to say this. Maybe Inzaghi doesn't rotate the 11 that we've been calling him to rotate the 11 because that 11 that starts every game is the only 11 that understand how to play that Inzaghi ball where it's like pass and move, everyone's rotating, no one has a real position, complete fluidity. There's 12 guys that could do it. I think Darmian and Dumfries can be substituted, right? But other than that, it's got to be those 10 or 11 other guys. And once he makes those changes, they don't look as good. They don't look as fluid. They don't look like they know what they're doing. So maybe that's why he's not rotating as much as we think he should.
It could be. It definitely could be. I don't know. We'll talk about Inter a lot more in a little bit because I'm kind of interested in talking to them after this game. I kind of had some new opinions. Another game that happened today, Celtic, really struggling Celtic in Europe, I will also say. Went to Atalanta, 0-0 game. Another classic example. Atalanta need to bury their chances. 2.33 XG. Pasalic probably had 1.7 of that XG. Just couldn't find the back of the net. I don't know why. They were kind of hitting it straight at Kasper Schmeichel. He made a couple good saves. But this has been the story of the season. Creating chances, not fully putting them away, and that's what's creating their inconsistency, and it is a little bit of an issue.
It's definitely an issue. With Atalanta, it's funny. Like they either like convert all of their XG and it's like 3.3 and they have 3 goals, or like they don't convert any of it. You know what I mean? It's like,
yeah, it is.
They'll have
it's really
and
weird.
Score 1. Yeah, it's really weird. So they got to put away their chances. I mean, they've had a good start to the Champions League, so I don't think this will set them back too much. But you got to make sure moving forward you bury your chances.
Definitely. In the last Italian game, Bologna went to Aston Villa, lost that game 2-0. I don't think this is a surprise to anybody. Yeah, Bologna's just not all that great yet. They're okay. They're not great.
Nobody thought Bologna was going to win this game. They didn't. This is a clear result. Although if I bet on the Villains this game, I'm sure they would have lost.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe you need to take a break from the Colby. But a couple other games happening before the end of the week in Europe. Europa League, Dynamo Kiev going to Roma. We talked yesterday how big of a game that is. Lazio going to Twente. And then in the Conference League, we got Fiorentina going to St. Gallen or Gallen. Could be either. If it's in France, maybe it's in Scotland. I don't know.
Who knows?
Who knows?
We'll keep our eyes on these games. Hopefully Roma, Lazio, and Fiorentina can get it done and represent the Serie A.
Back to Italy. Calcio. We got a lot of it this weekend. A lot of big ones once again. First match we're taking a look at going into the weekend. Milan at Bologna. What are your takeaways, Garrett? What's your storyline going into this one? Because I got a couple that I'm thinking.
I'm thinking I want to see what lineup Fonseca comes out with after the following up the Udinese game, benching Tomori and Leao. Want to see if he's going to do something similar there. That's my main thing that I want to see pre-game. If you're asking me what I think is going to happen during the game, I think Milan are going to score goals and Bologna are not going to score. However, I don't know if is Endorin healthy right now? Because if he is, that left flank could be very vulnerable, as we know it has been throughout the season for Milan, because Endorin is an electric player who will not be on Bologna for long.
I don't know if we saw them. I'm trying to find it right now. Yeah, they practiced this week. Ndoye and Ailing Jr. practiced this week. So hopefully they both play. That'd be great. For me, the big storyline is Milan are going into this counterattacking identity, and I really hope they stick with it because Bologna are going to want to control the ball. So this is a very good game for you to just sit off and be okay sitting off. Show that you can be in a low block, a mid block for a lot of the game, and then counter hard. Because in the games where they have been countering, it's not been against really fluid, modern teams. It's been more in like freak moments of chaos they have countered. And in this game, Bologna are going to want to have the ball and try to dominate the ball. And this will be the first time Fonseca, I think, is facing that since he's been very on the hot seat, right? Like they're going to need to be a good defensive shape to beat Bologna, period. Like even if it's a draw, Milan's got to win though. That's the thing now. Like if you're the Milan coach, these are games that you have to win. And I'm still not sure the mentality's there.
Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't even think of that. Bologna's definitely going to have or try to have 60% possession, which I think will play in Milan's favor, especially the way that they've been playing on that counterattack. So if that's the case, then I think Milan will win this handily. But we've been surprised with Bologna. They seem to not know how to win, but they seem to know how to not lose as well, because they have 5 draws in 7 games. 4 of their last 5 have been draws. But I think Milan have figured out also at the same time how to win games, right? They've won 3 of their last 5.
4 of their last 5 now.
4 of their last 5, yeah. They kind of got lucked out on against Udinese. But so 4 of their last 5, they're figuring out how to win, figuring out how to defend better as a team, figuring out their shape, and Bologna just more of the same with these draws.
Yeah, from a Bologna perspective, I think they're probably okay with a draw in this game, which should make it kind of a weird game because I think they're going to want to hold the ball, but be, I guess, defensive about it in a way. Is the way I would think about it, where they're not going to try to overexpose themselves, and it could end up being a very boring game, as Bologna has been boring. That could be amplified in this one, but at some point, I would like to see Italiano get some points on the board. I know they won, but you got to master one. Like you have to master, we're really good at offense, or you have to master, we're going to be really good at defense. And they're just so wishy-washy because when they get the goals, they concede. And when they don't get the goals, they defend well. So you have to do something. Something's got to give on one side of the field.
Pick one.
So you can advance. Yeah.
Yeah. I just think that Milan scored too much for Bologna. Like Bologna, even if they do score, they can't keep up with the firepower that Milan have. Glisic is playing well, right? We just talked about Fofana's finding his own. Reinders is in form.
Suspended.
Morata knows the league. Oh, who's suspended?
Reinders, red card.
Good call. That's going to hurt Milan for sure. So we think they'll put Loftus-Cheek in there.
Yeah, definitely.
I still think Pulisic, the way that Pulisic's form right now, he's probably going to get one. And they're going to have too much firepower. But I'm always wrong. So, and you cannot suspect what happens in Calcio. It is at Bologna, so we do know that obviously in Italy, it's harder to win on the road. But if you're Milan, you got to get this win. You got to get this dub. You got to get these 3 points.
I agree with you. I think they're gonna. It's too many goals. That's really the thing. And what's kind of an interesting little side story to this game is, I actually think this is a really good game for Leao to play in. But it's a question of, oh, the team's playing so well when he's out. Do you now go back to him? And kind of when Milan scored in the Champions League game, he kind of looked a little bit disappointed because he came out and then they immediately scored and he was like walking off the pitch and like he threw his arms up at first, but then he was kind of pouting. So it's a very hard situation for Fonseca to navigate now because on one hand, you want to get Leao going, and I do think this is a good game for Leao. Like, Bologna's going to have the ball. Leao's going to be able to exploit space very quickly. You could get him rolling right now. And then on the other side, he hasn't produced, bad attitude. My other players are producing when they're coming in. It's kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't. I think the safer thing is to not play Leao at this point, though.
I would agree with you, but I think he's going to play just because it's Leao, and then he'll just pout even more for not starting 2 games in a row, 2 Serie A games in a row. Also, what I think is going to be big is, can Milan not get a red card, right? They've gotten 3 red cards in their last 3 games. That's like grammar level stuff, but like that's something that you need to not do, right? And 3 in 3 games is pretty terrible. So that can't happen again.
Bologna would be a scary team to be up a man too, because they do keep the ball really well. If you give them that extra guy, they could hurt you. So that'll be an interesting one. Moving on, we got Roma visiting Fiorentina. Big storyline this past weekend. Gudmundsson got hurt, so he's out for a month. Definitely not playing. Moise Kean also hurt. I don't know if he's going to be able to play. I tried to find anything on it. I didn't see shit. So I'm going to assume he's playing now.
Yeah,
this is a hard game for Juric. This is a bad game for Juric. Going to Florence to try to play this Fiorentina team, who's been playing well too. I mean, 2 wins or 3 wins last 5, 1 draw, 1 loss. 5th in the table right now. Scary team to play against. Kolpani's now scoring. Everybody, the whole team is playing well, and we can't really say that for about a lot of teams in Serie A right now, apart from Napoli, I would say. And Fiorentina got it rolling right now. And De Gea's rolling too. It's just through the team, everybody's playing well.
Yes, they are rolling, right? In the last 4 games, they have win, draw, win, win. But we know how big Gudmundsson is for them in those games. Yes, Kolpani did score, right? But he finally scored when they were down. Lecce was down a man, and he scored 2 goals, but that's the only thing he's done. So is he really rolling yet? Can he carry that form into the next game? He's done nothing this season to make me think he will, right? And now that you have Gudmundsson out, you have that attention that you can give back to Kolpani, right? Because Gudmundsson took away some attention off Kolpani. So he's going to be in the same spot that he was in the beginning of the season when Gudmundsson wasn't on the pitch. And I think Fiorentina are going to be in a similar situation that they were in the beginning season without Gudmundsson, and they did not get results when he wasn't on the pitch. Yes, I agree with you that most of their players now are in form, but we'll have to see if that continues with that main player, because Gudmundsson is going to draw the attention to most of their defense, right? So that can allow Keane to flourish and Kolpani to flourish and other players to flourish. With him off the pitch, are they going to do that, or is it going to look like they looked in the beginning of the season when he was not playing?
That could be true. What I like about this matchup, and assuming Moise Kean plays, he's going to more be running into that left side of the field, which is Roma's right side, where Mancini is. And Mancini was not great last week. And that's a really dangerous matchup to be going in, because Ndika is going to be fine off of there, off the Roma left side of the field. So that's an area that I think could be exploited. And Robin Gosens is playing well. So I just think there's a lot of good matchups favoring Fiorentina. If Gudmundsson was playing, I would be fully backing them to win this game 1000%. I would put money on it. That would probably be my Colby pick. But they don't have him, and that is a major loss. But I still like the Dodo matchup off the right side. I like the Robin Goza matchup off the left. I like Keane, and I like Adley. I think Adley could have a lot of joy in this game with the space that he wants to exploit and play quickly. From a Roma perspective, it's the same thing. What are they going to do to win this game? And I haven't seen anything that says they're going to do anything to win this game.
I don't know either. I'd love to them at least see some type of fight. I'm lacking when I watch a Roma game. I don't even see that from them, which is frustrating because Roma is a big club, and you know that most of the Roma players like would die for that club, right? Most of the Roma legends would die for that club, and you just don't see it in these players. So I think the one player, and we touched upon it last week, that you see it in is Dybala, and I think that's just because he knows what mentality takes to win consistently in this league, because he's seen it in a Juventus jersey. And the players on Roma need to take after him and need to see that, because their actual locker room leaders are not stepping up in Mancini and Pellegrini. Last season when Roma were in this little turmoil, I think Mancini really stepped up in the locker room and was that leader that they needed. So either he needs to do it, Pellegrini needs to do it, Dybala needs to do it, somebody needs to do it to kind of light a fire under these boys, because it's the same old that's not getting it done right now.
And it's still the offense. The defense, you said, is okay, is good enough. I mean, I guess it's a very good defense, actually. I mean, they've only
6 goals allowed.
6 goals again, and it seems like it's worse than it is for some reason in my mind. What's difficult with the Juric thing is what sets managers apart from like a lower, not a lower level, like a second tier club to a number 1 tier club is your ability to actually create offense. Like that is the hard jump. There's a lot of good defensive coaches, but a lot of coaches struggle. And right now we're seeing it with Thiago Motta, the same thing. Defense is figured out. It's how do you unlock other teams? And that's what makes a great manager. That's what makes great teams. And with Juric, he has this season to get it done. I don't think there's a situation where he gets sacked. And at the same time, though, do we have to look at these players and say, do they not feel the freedom to just take a risk and like make that risky pass, or take a guy, maybe one too many guys on, to try to create that opportunity, because we don't see it and it's so stagnant. And Dovbyk is the same way. Like Dovbyk is back to goal, and that's the only time he ever receives the ball. He doesn't really try to run at people. Even Sule never runs at anybody. Nobody takes it on their back to go and get the goal. And you need that. Like somebody, that's clearly what's missing.
I think Sule tries to take people. I think he tries to take people on too much. It's almost too much of him trying to give me the ball and I'm going to dribble. He needs to have a more balanced approach, where sometimes I'm going to take him on or attempt to take him on, and sometimes I'm going to play the correct pass in that area. But other than that, I don't see many other people trying to take them on. Pellegrini will take a touch and it will go 15 feet in the other direction. He can't. He'll shoot the ball and it won't come anywhere close to the net, right? Cristante hasn't looked good at all. Brian, he's lost out there. Zalewski also lost out there. There's a lot of guys that just look lost and they don't know what they're supposed to be doing on the pitch.
What I would like to see is them go back to just like basic, classic football. Get it to the wingbacks, cross it into the box, Dovbyk is getting 0 service. And you're playing with essentially wingbacks because of how Angelino tucks in and Celik runs forward. Just get the ball in the box. Like, maybe push Brian Cristante up, or play another striker, play Shmamordov, play both of them. Just do a classic 3-5-2 with Dybala under them. And to try, that would say you have to drop Pellegrini, but you need to get service into the box. Like, what you're doing is not working. Change something up. Add another striker, create some chaos, because every Roma game right now is not chaos. Like you need some chaos to generate those scoring opportunities. And we see that with Atalanta to an extreme. We see that with other teams to an extreme. There's not enough risk taking for me, or any pattern of here's how we're going to create chances.
I wouldn't even take risks. Like you said, I would dumb the game plan down so much to where it's It's fundamental soccer. It's cross it in, throw in 20, 30 crosses. Dobik is fantastic in the air. You can't break anybody down by a passage of player and overload on one side. So just put El Shaarawy in and put him on the right and put Sule on the left and have them just whip in crosses. I know that's not going to happen, right? They're just not going to do that. But you have to change up something and figure out a way to consistently score goals. And it's not what you've been doing now, which is Dybala, Pellegrini, Dobik, or Dybala and Pellegrini behind Dobik to try to create links or passage of play, or Sule behind Dobik. It's just not working. So try the crosses, try something different, go to a 3-5-2 rather than a 3-4-2-1, go to play a 4-back, do something different, 4-3-3. And Juric isn't that guy to do that, but you have to mix something up, shake something up, or it's just going to be more of the same from Roma.
Play Baldonzi too. Our love for that. Play Baldonzi. I mean,
for somebody else off the left other than Pellegrini.
Yeah. For Juric, is this partially he can't even experiment because of the state that the club is in and how everybody's so mad if he experiments and they lose a game like this? Like, is he scared of that situation? Is he got pressure from the board? There's clearly pressure from the fans.
Well, that's the problem.
It is a difficult situation.
That's the problem, in my opinion, with the Italian media, how they write stories every single day, because it doesn't give a manager any time. Juric was hired 5 games ago. Like, let him mix it up, let him fail, let him fall on his face, because clearly what Daniele De Rossi was doing wasn't working, and he's not doing much different, right? He's still running a 3-4-2-1. Sometimes De Rossi ran a 4-3-2-1 out there rather than a 3-4-2-1, but he's doing the same exact shit. And he's doing that because the defense is strong that way. And he knows at least we can maybe sneak out a win at the end of the game if it's 0-0 or 1-1. We're not playing extremely open and we're still in the game. But sometimes you got to just fall flat on your face and have the security of, I'm not going to lose my job as I try to iron this thing out and figure out what we're supposed to look like. But that will never happen in Italy, and because of the Italian media and because of their fans. So I do think Juric is just saying, like, let me make sure that we are solidified defensively, and hopefully one of our players can have a world-class moment and we can sneak out these wins like they did against Venezia when Pizzilli scored that corner kick goal. And they did, and with Dovbyk against Monza, but they tied that game. But that's because they're being solidified defensively.
Yeah, this is going to be. I think this will be a good game, though. I don't think it'll be too boring. I think Fiorentina are going to bring it to them, so it should be good. And flipping the script onto a game that I'm a little bit worried about being a snooze fest. Juventus going to Inter Milan. Off the back of the last couple of weeks, these are 2 teams that got some injury trouble. 2 teams that are kind of playing very boring calcio and just sitting in a good defensive shape and not doing a ton else. Like, apart from Marcus Thuram, like, I can't really point to anybody that's been overly exciting for either of these teams in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, that's a fact. I mean, we just saw Juventus go 81 minutes without putting a shot up. However, I do think this is coming at a good time for Juve, especially after that stinkfest, because you can now be motivated and be like, we cannot do that 2 games in a row. We need to take the game to Inter. We need to create chances and not go 80 minutes without a shot on target or a big chance. Also, yes, I know Juventus have injuries, but I think that the players injured for Inter are they're just way more important. Like Hakan, no one else in Inter can play that position. Acerbi, obviously they have other guys that can play center back, but he's usually better against physical, dominant strikers like a Haaland or a Dusan Vlahovic. So he could have easily taken Dusan out of that game, like we've seen him do with Haaland twice. And if he's not there, they have to play somebody else. Now De Vrij has been playing well, but I think that's a better matchup for Dusan to actually make something happen. And then Inter just playing one of their best players out of position, and clearly he's not able to play it effectively. Maybe this game they'll try something else and play Zielinski there. I know you want to see him at that spot and just let Barella be Barella. I don't know if Inzaghi has the confidence in Zielinski to do that, as he's barely played him throughout the season so far. So I just think that's the reason why he has more confidence in Barella, but Barella cannot do it. Where on the other side, Juventus injuries, obviously you have players like Nico Gonzalez, Weston McKennie. I don't know if Coop Miners is healthy or not, but let's say Coop Miners and Douglas Luiz. Those players are obviously important, but Juventus, those aren't make or break for Juventus, right? They have other substitutes that can perform just as well or slightly just as well in their spots, right? Where Inter do not have that.
Yeah, that's a good point. On Inter, from like a kind of a tactical perspective, the more I'm watching them this year, the more I'm thinking how they're playing right now is what Inzaghi wants. And we're very good defensively. Most of the goals they've conceded came at the start of the season. And maybe this is the Inter that he wants to see. And in his mind, we're not doing anything wrong. This is how we're going to win the Champions League. And we're going to be in the competing for a Scudetto because we can overpower most teams and they're not going to score against us. And maybe this is an evolution in his coaching style that isn't quite 100% where it needs to be. I'm sure he is thinking that. But this could be the new Inter. It's defense first, and if we hit you on the counter, so be it.
But is it really defense first, though? They allowed, 30 total goals last season. They've already allowed 9. Like, yeah, they had their first clean sheet against Roma and another one against Young Boys, but Roma can't score. We've just covered that, and Young Boys is very mediocre. I personally think that Inter's defense has not been very good this year. They're in more of a defensive shell than they were in last year. Last year, they would possess it a lot more and have a lot more of the ball. This year, not so much. But I just think that might be because Inter's so lethal on the counterattack that maybe Inzaghi wants to set up slightly deeper, but I don't think it's playing in their favor because it's allowing them to let more goals in this season. And yes, they're still hitting on the counter, but they were doing that last year, even when they dominated the ball of 60% possession. I really just think it takes, if you remember 2 seasons ago when Inter was supposed to win the league, they didn't, 2 seasons ago. I think it takes a full season for players to learn Inzaghi's system because it's so complicated and it's so pass, move, replace, change spots. You end up where you end up and you need to realize that and cover for him. And I think it took them like 2 years under Inzaghi to win the Scudetto, right, to play like that. And now they've added some extra pieces around like Bisic, Taremi, Arnautovic, Carlos Augusto, Zielinski, and those guys aren't being able to, like I mentioned earlier, do the pass, move, replace thing as well as that starting 11 because they've been under Inzaghi for the last 3-4 years. So I just think his calcio is so beautiful and complicated. It takes longer to understand it and play it effectively.
And on the back of this, I noticed this today, and this could be, it's such a small sample size, but Barella in the Çalhanoğlu role. What I noticed today was, and you don't really see this when Hakan is playing, on the counterattacks, Barella released, Mkhitaryan released, Frattesi released. So then if you lose the ball, you literally have no midfield. And I noticed that happened a lot today. And that goes back to your point about it's hard to learn who you're covering for, when you're allowed to go, where you're supposed to make the runs to. And that number 6 role on this team is so important because if you do lose the ball and nobody's covering, it's just guys running at the defense. And there was a lot of situations today where that was happening. And against a better team, they're going to beat you. Like they were 3v3, 4v3 a ton of times. This was a back and forth open game. And I think if they do that against this Juventus team, who you've been saying, Mata is built to counterattack, they're probably going to lose. Like that is a very big deal that Inzaghi is going to have to figure out, or Barella's going to have to figure out.
Yeah, I mean, that's also just like why I don't think it's smart for Inzaghi to play Barella in that spot because you're training a pit bull, right? Like that's Barella's bread and butter is make that darting run up and be creative. Or Hakan is I can make any pass on the field no matter where I am. Barella can't do that either. And not to mention Hakan a lot of times fills in for Bastoni when he goes up. And so if Barella's going up and he's not realizing Bastoni's up, then you're way out of position. And then you have a very similar situation of the Juventus Lazio where Kalulu sees the space and just takes advantage of it, and then it's a 1-on-1 with the goalie and you get a red card. But to your point of you saying how Inter's sitting in a shell, that can play in their favor because Juventus, we've seen kind of have wasted possession, a lot of passing it around side to side, not too much breaking down low blocks. And Inter has this year been sitting in a low block for a lot longer, a lot more often than they were last year. And that could be a place where Juventus could struggle because we saw them struggle against Lazio with 10 men in a low block. And some reporter even asked Mata about it. He was like, you guys seem to struggle against low blocks. And he was like, yeah, we do, but we're not the only team that struggles against low blocks. Every team struggles against low blocks. But Juventus struggled more than normal teams. So I think that you are correct in that this game does scream snooze fest, right? Because if Inter sit in the low block, then Juventus are going to have a tough time breaking them down. But if Juventus sit in a lower block, I think they can take advantage of some of the mistakes that these Inter players will make playing not in their normal position.
So for you, because we talked about Inter Milan a lot, what does Juventus need to do to win this game? And do you, as a Juve fan, should they be looking at this game as we need to win, or fine with a point at the San Siro?
Yeah, it's so tough. I will always think Juventus need to win every single game, home or away. But we know that Inter are the champs. It is in the San Siro. I don't think you're upset with a tie, but I think you go in saying we can beat these guys. We should beat these guys, depending on how it goes in the last 80 minutes, is if you push for that win or go and hold for the 1 or 2-1 win that you have, or the draw in place. So in my brain, if I'm Mata, I'm saying we can go win these guys, beat these guys. Quick stat of the day: Juventus has beaten Inter the most teams out of all the teams in Italy. Juventus is beating Inter the most, which is a fun stat. Because I'm saying you are Juventus, you guys can beat these guys, and then depending on how the game goes, maybe we pack it in and go get the point in the San Siro.
And what do you think they need to do differently to get there? Because we've been talking about Juve over and over, kind of boring, on the ball, not really doing anything, can't score. Like, what needs to change? Like, to beat Inter?
I'll tell you what needs to change. And this was the problem with Allegri as well. If you watch a Juventus game for a full 90 minutes, Fagioli is really, and now a little bit of Douglas Luiz, and Coop Miners was doing it too, but Coop Miners is out. But Fagioli is really the only one that goes in the middle and goes and gets the ball and tries to progress it. Everybody else on Juve is so fine with passing it on the sidelines and going back to the center back and going back to the sideline and going back, especially Locatelli. He's so fine with just going back, right to left, left to right, right to left, right, left to right. We need to go break the lines, get a guy in the middle, break the first line, and then have him pass it out wide and then have the cross in. The middle guys are so stagnant and stand still, and it doesn't allow for you to be able to break a low block down.
All right, cool. My matchup to watch in this one is Conceição against DeMarco. I think that's going to be a very interesting battle, unless Conceição is still suspended for a start.
No,
I forget.
I don't think so, because they appealed it and he got it approved because it wasn't that gaudy of a dive, and it shouldn't have been.
The reason I'm pulling that one out is because Conceição has a ton of energy and he's a hothead, and he's going to have to track back a ton. And DeMarco can kind of be exposed sometimes 1v1, and Conceição is very good 1v1. So I think that's the make or break area of the field. The other one is maybe Marcus Thuram against Savona/Gatti, because that's the area he's going to run into. And this is going to be a tough one for Savona for sure, because he's going to have Marcus Thuram and DeMarco running straight at him a lot.
That he is. You know what they did, what Mata did against Lazio, which I thought was very interesting. I've never seen him do it before. When Lazio, I don't know how to explain it. When Zirkzee was on the top of the pitch, Kalulu was playing left center back, right? So he was on the bottom of the pitch. And then when they switched sides, and Inzaghi or Zirkzee was on the top of the pitch by the coaches, he switched Kalulu to right center back. It was really weird. So Kalulu basically played left center back in the first half and right center back in the second half. Maybe Mata will have whatever side Thuram on and DeMarco's on, Kalulu's on both sides of the half. But then obviously you have Lautaro on the other side. So
Interesting. It should be a good tactical battle. These are two really good managers. I am still just worried it's going to be a snooze fest because that has been a lot of the big games this year. But to break down the other games that are going on, Cagliari going to Udine to take on Udinese. Big game for both teams. Another one. I think Udinese kind of need to bounce back after that Milan loss. I think they could have won that game. This is a good game for them to be at home and get a win. For Cagliari, get some momentum. You just had a really difficult game against Torino. Maybe you go to Udine, get a result. That's all you need. You got to stay out of the relegation zone. Como going to Torino. I'm a little bit worried about Torino in this game. After that Cagliari game, it was a very bad performance in my mind. Very immature, and they're going into Como team that's kind of coming into their own and is going to try to bring it to them and want to be ball dominant. And Torino haven't shown that they can defend well when they're not in possession. So that's one to watch. This could be a Como away win, which would be really big for them in my mind.
yeah, this is a good game to watch. This is probably the highlight of these other games. How we haven't, if we were going to bring out another one to break down, I would probably say Como Torino, because of Torino obviously lost to Pazza, but who's the striker that had a great game last game?
Tony Sanabria, yeah, he played great.
Sanabria. So let's see if he can continue it, right? Because yes, they did let up 3 goals, but they didn't look as weak offensively as I thought that they would, which is good, right? So they just got to kind of screw in some loose screws defensively. But Como, Nico Paz obviously created the most chances as an under 19 besides Lamine Yamal. They possess the ball. They believe in what they're doing. So this is going to be a great game to watch.
Definitely. Then we got Lecce visiting Napoli. There is no reason to not expect a bloodbath. Right?
Bloodbath, blowout.
Yeah, it's got to be.
Yeah.
It has to be.
I mean, this is also a game where, I'll just say Lukaku, since the international break, I know it's only been like maybe 2 games or 1 game. He didn't play that well in the last game. So maybe this is a game where it's like, hey, break off the dust, get back in the score sheet, or at least an assist, because you're going up against Lecce and they just let people score.
The other important thing about this one that we did fail to talk about, in Inter Juve, one of them need to win, because if they draw, that's Inter on 18 points, Napoli on 22. Conte is now 4 points clear, and he has an easy rest of the month, more or less. That lead's going to get stretched, and we're going to keep saying it, and Conte is a very hard man to catch.
He does have an easy rest of the month, but I was looking at Napoli's schedule in November, right? And he goes Milan, then Atalanta come to Naples, then he goes to Inter, then Roma come to Naples, then he goes to Torino, then he goes back to Roma against Lazio, then Lazio come to Naples. That's a tough.
That is tough.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 games in a row.
He's just going to sit on that 4 point.
Yeah, but it is 1 game a week.
Yeah, 1 game a week matters. Last couple of games here. Verona going to Atalanta. I'm very scared for Verona at this point. The inconsistencies have been very poor. They just got blew out by Monza. And going to Atalanta is a much harder game than that. For Atalanta, they're going to continue to create their chances. It's a question of, are they going to convert them? I actually expect Verona to score in this game. Atalanta were so open today. I couldn't believe it. But
they always are.
Yeah. I don't see this one going Verona's way. Another game, we got Empoli going to Parma. This, for me, is a very bad game for Parma and a very good game for Empoli. Empoli are hot right now. Even off the Napoli, I'm considering that Napoli game a win for them because of how good they played.
Yeah, but Parma are very good at home. That's when Parma's at their best, is when they're at home. But it's going to be interesting because, Empoli want to sit in a shell, and, Parma also kind of want to sit in a shell and counter. They both want to do the same thing. Something has to give.
Draw.
Napoli also sits in that shell, and Empoli outpossessed them. So I think Empoli might try to play, or might end up having more of the possession because of that. And maybe Parma can hit on the break, but Empoli's been so tough to break down defensively. And this is what I'll say. They've been so disciplined, and Parma have not. Parma's been the opposite of discipline, and I think that can give Empoli the edge in this game, is their discipline over Parma.
Yeah, and if Empoli win here, they go back into one of those European spots most likely. And I don't know. This is going to be a good game in my mind. I think this is going to be a very interesting one. Interesting tactical battles, different styles of play. Really, I think we're going to see. I think we're going to see that aggressive Empoli because of how they're feeling about themselves. So it should be good. Another one, Genoa going to Lazio. I fully expect Lazio to win this one. Lazio money line was not in the Colpi. I didn't look at the odds actually because I took a different game, but that would have been a good Colpi one.
Yeah, I almost took Lazio money line in the Colby, but it goes back to what I said earlier. You can never expect the expected with Calcio. So I think 99% of people think this is a Lazio game. I wouldn't be surprised if it is, but I also wouldn't be surprised if Genoa somehow get a tie.
All right. Last game of the weekend, Venezia going to Monza. Big, big game for both these teams. When you're battling other teams in the relegation war, you got to win them. And if Venezia win this, they go even on points with Monza, brings you out of the relegation zone. These games matter. You got to steal points from your competitors here. And I still think Venezia are better than Monza in my mind right now when I see them play. They've kind of gotten unlucky, and they're still good. They're not great away from home is part of the issue.
That's what I was going to say. Them going to Monza, I think, will give Monza the edge.
Yeah, and Monza's coming off a 3-0 win and a Verona team that we were hot on. So, I mean, this one
I
could go
want to
either way.
see more of Monza goal kick, launch 75 yards, head pass 1-0 with the keeper. It's so effective. Just do that every time.
It is effective. And hopefully Danny Motta can continue his form and Danny Maldini comes back into the team and plays well. So I think this is actually going to be a pretty good game. I'm expecting goals in this one. Both these teams are going to be going for it in my mind. But that wraps up the games of the weekend. A lot of interesting matchups, honestly. Every weekend has been really good. I guess the thing is that there's so many good teams in the league. We're just bound to have awesome matchups up and down.
So many good teams, and you never know what can happen. Any game or anybody can lose on any given match day, which we've seen, and which is why it is so tough to hit a Colpi.
And that brings us into our infamous segment.
Colpi di luna. Colpi di luna.
Colpi, very bad return after the international break, but we are back. Motts, not so much. Hasn't hit a leg since Nam. We're going to give it to you to start, Motts, because you really need to get off the board, on the board, I mean. And I disdain your pick. And I can't believe we're not getting a slump buster yet. Like, this is the pick you're making. I can't believe this is actually like on the schedule. This is what you wrote down. This is what you're standing by.
Yes. Well, just so I'm going to set the scene here for the Paisanos. Obviously, I haven't hit a leg since August or early September. So I'm looking through the board here, looking to try to find an absolute lock when I've realized that the locks aren't locks. So I'm going to take an absolute unlock and just take a disgusting pick that makes no sense, because I think everybody would hate this bet. And that is exactly why I'm taking it, because it's so disgusting that nobody would bet on this. Well, it's not that disgusting, but nobody would probably bet on this. And that to me makes me think this is the one where I bust a slump. And what I decided to go with was Roma money line, because Fiorentina are playing good. They've gotten 2 wins in the last, or two wins in a row in the last 2 games. They've got like 9 goals in the last 3 games. They just beat Milan. They just beat Lazio. They're coming off a 6-0 win to Lecce. Roma can't score. This screams Florence at home. Roma money line. It's such a bad pick that it's good.
You're going contrary in there. I hate it. I'll give you Lode's pick because he's not here. He's got Empoli double chance. So Empoli win or Empoli. Oh, what did yours come in at? Yours came in at +8, 185. We forgot to say that. Very much not a slump buster odds. So Lode's has got an Empoli win or draw at Parma. -165. I like it. It's an interesting one. I do like it. I think
You'll never catch me doing a double chance bet. Never.
Yeah, that's why I haven't hit a leg in months. That one's coming in at -165. Best odds. If you're going to bet one outright, I guess that would be the one. Best odds. And to wrap it up, I took Napoli -1.5 at home against Lecce. For me, Just makes sense. Lecce just got fucking house 6-0. Napoli are really good. What, Monster checking? Monster's doing something, so I gotta keep talking. But that one comes in at minus 116, which brings the whole Colpi back up to plus 752, which is pretty fucking fat this time. Motts is 185, really bumped that. I don't understand why he's not just doing a slump buster. I mean, a Napoli minus 1.5 in my mind is a slump buster. So that should get me across the line this week and back on the board.
If the Paisanos are feeling dangerous and they want to ride with my Juventus money line $100 bet week in and week out, there's some value in that. Plus 410. I will be honest with the Paisanos. I think I'm going to only do 50 on this one because this is a tough place to win and I don't want to lose $100. But there's some value there.
That is
so Juve money line.
I'm kind of surprised it's that high.
Plus 410.
Interesting. They must be leaning draw.
Yeah, but I will say we have, as I mentioned earlier when I said hello to everybody, we have Calcio Saturday, Sunday, not on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, not on Friday, Saturday, Sunday. What that means is, oh my God, we have so many Copies coming up. And what we'll do is we'll post a Copy every day for each game. That way we'll get on the board.
That's a good step.
We'll post a Copy every single day. It might not be 2 legs because some games only have, or some days only have 2 games. But if a day has 3 or more, it'll be 3 legs, and we'll post a Copy every day. So Paisanos, get ready to comment because we're going to need your Paisan leg as well.
Love that idea, Motts. We'll roll with that. We might be going live stream YouTube live this weekend for one of the games. We're still deciding, but we'll keep you guys updated. And I'm going to steal the spotlight from Motts really quick. Couple updates on the metrics. We got 73 subscribers on YouTube now. Still sitting at 97 5-stars on Spotify. We got to get that to 100 guys in the next 2 weeks. We're trying to do it before match day 10. So if you're listening, please, please, please give us 5 on Spotify. It helps us grow the Serie A community in the United States, which is what we're here to do and what we care about. We're here for you, Paisanos. Motts, sign us off.
Paisanos, do not be a gagoot, and Forza Calcio Culture.